program. I have enrolled my two oldest daughters in two-way dual language from the earliest days. And the boon to my family, I can tell you, has been tremendous. My daughters are bilingual. In fact, my oldest daughter speaks 4 languages now. She's done study abroad in Italy. She's fluent in French. She's fluent in Spanish. And I think that language has played a key role in advancing her educational career. The same for my younger daughter, who has traveled all around the world independently, Europe and through Asia, and then Eastern Europe as well as a young lady. And her facility with languages was grounded in her experience in the dual language program. So it has had tremendous benefits for my family personally. And we think it's a really great opportunity here at downtown Montessori. So dual language in Dallas ISD. Whoops. We've got, hold on just a moment.
My husband and I, when our son was about to enter into kindergarten, we were.
Can you all see the video that I'm playing right now?
It went away. We're seeing the mission statement. Yes.
Excited.
What about that? Can you see that video?
Offered.
I think there's a problem with the sharing. Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'll share from Google. It doesn't go from one application to the other. So let me get into the Chrome here. Here we go. I'm going to back us up here. And hold on. One more. Share screen, share sound, and share. There we go. Okay.
My husband and I, when our son was about to enter into kindergarten, we were excited that there was a dual language program offered.
As a parent, I'm very involved in, me and my wife are very involved in our kids becoming successful education-wise.
When we found out about the dual program, we were super excited.
We thought it was really important for our kids to be able to have an opportunity to be exposed to another language and to learn about other cultures and through learning a different language.
It gives them an opportunity to be more sociable and have other network opportunities and be able to communicate on other levels besides the environment level that they're at. And I want them to have every opportunity that there is for them to grow and meet other people and also know other cultures outside of their own culture that's out there in the world.
Just as we see our city and our culture so influenced by Spanish culture, we've loved our kids having a broader understanding of the language and being able to learn a language alongside their native English language.
El programa de español es muy importante porque puede ganar más dinero si habla español y también puede comunicar con su comunidad.
I think when we entered the program, we really didn't know what to expect. At Geneva Heights, our son started in the 2nd year of their dual language program. And so there wasn't a lot of, there weren't a lot of parents ahead of us.
But I would recommend it for anybody to do it. I mean, we're trying to have a better society, and it starts with our younger children. So I think in order for her to be a great leader, she has to pick up something extra like this, and I think this will benefit her.
That could let us know what this was going to look like or how this was going to play out. And my husband and I from the get-go were on board to see this through. And we really, we've been committed from the beginning because we do think it's such an opportunity for our kids to be learning another language at such a young age, to be exposed for this many years consistently. We just didn't see any other way. Once we were in, we were all in.
So those are just a few parent testimonials there about our dual language program. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and share the PowerPoint one more time. There we go. So we have a vision, right? And the vision of our department is to foster a culture of collaboration that advocates and ensures equity, right? And we're not just talking about broad equity. We're really specific about the equity that we're looking at for academic success, the linguistic success, and the social success of all language learners, whether they're learning English or learning Spanish. And our mission is to increase student achievement, basically, by effectively addressing the varying needs of English learners through the bilingual ESL program. What that means is through the dual language program, Spanish learner students also get the benefit from our dedication around equity and addressing those academic, linguistic, and social needs. So we want to talk about the goals and benefits of dual language. We want to give you an overview of the two-way dual language program, kind of go over what the language of instruction will be for grades pre-K through 5, and then give you plenty of opportunities to ask any questions that we can answer. So the dual language benefits, these are the top ones. There are a lot of them, but at the very top of the list are developing that proficiency in 2 languages, developing academic proficiency in 2 languages. So many people in Dallas can speak English and Spanish, but many of those same people aren't able to read or write in those languages. They have one language that they can read and write in, another that they can speak in. And so really developing that academic proficiency in 2 languages is an important goal. Another important goal of the program and another benefit is developing that positive cross-cultural attitude, that biculturalism, really developing students that are citizens of the world and really have high levels of sociocultural competence. Dual language, the research has been very clear. Students that go through dual language programs have higher academic achievement overall in all the content areas. Our own internal data in Dallas ISD shows that to be true after over 15 years of dual language programs here. And so the cognitive benefits of being bilingual increase that creativity, increased problem-solving skills. And the research from around the world is clear that students from both groups benefit academically with the minority and partner as the language of initial literacy, right? So what does that mean? It means that in our dual language program, where we focus on initial literacy instruction in Spanish, it provides really outsized benefits for both English learners and Spanish learners. Our English learners will develop English proficiency earlier, even though the initial literacy instruction is in Spanish, because it allows them to build confidence. It builds Spanish as a status language, and allows them to build fundamental basics in their primary language that then transfer to their second language. For our English learners, that primary language of instruction of Spanish in the early literacy is really critical to establishing, again, Spanish as a status language in the classroom, but really providing students deep and long-lasting opportunities to develop fluency and proficiency in Spanish. So each of the learners have unique needs in this program, right? So if a student is a native speaker of English, they need extensive exposure to Spanish, and they also need a gradual increase of instructional time in English. The native speakers of Spanish also need extensive exposure to Spanish because they need to build the foundation in their native language that's going to transfer to English, and they also need a gradual increase of instructional time in their second language, which is English. The needs of the students may differ because they have different strengths in their native language, but the program looks the same for the students, right? So in pre-K through first grade, English learners and what we call opt-in students or Spanish learners are all together in the classroom all day long. Reading language arts is in Spanish for 120 minutes a day. Science is in Spanish for 45 minutes a day. Social studies is in Spanish for 45 minutes a day. And math is in English for 90 minutes a day. Now, having said that, pardon me, there are also language of the day activities, bridging activities, center activities where their students are engaging in the partner language every day. So English, 90 minutes a day, yes, but in math, there are opportunities for students to engage in Spanish conversations and Spanish activities The same thing for reading, language arts, science, and social studies. Through bridging and other activities and language of the day activities, the students actually do engage in both languages in all the content areas, but the primary focus of instruction is what we have laid out here on this chart. In second grade, this is where we start moving more towards a 50-50 program. So every day they're going to get reading, language arts, and Spanish for 60 minutes. They'll continue to get science and social studies for 45 minutes apiece in Spanish, but we're going to introduce an hour a day of English reading, language arts, and then continue with math and English for 90 minutes a day. In third grade, again, it's the 50-50 model. Here, we begin to alternate the languages of reading, language arts by the week. So in third through fifth grade, we'll have a Spanish week where all reading, language arts instruction is in Spanish for the week for 120 minutes a day. Science and social studies continue to be in Spanish, and math is in English for 90 minutes a day. The following week, reading, language arts is in English for 120 minutes a day. Science and social studies still in Spanish, 45 minutes a day each, and then math still in English for 90 minutes a day. So that is the program in a nutshell. We feel it's most helpful after presenting like the basics of the program to really open it up to questions that parents may have, because for many of our parents, most of us, it's a vastly different educational program than we went through as kids. And so we know that parents have a whole lot of questions. And so at this time, we would like to open it up to questions. And if you would like to, in the reactions bar, raise your hand in the reactions bar to ask a question, we can call on you. Or if you want to just call out your name and ask for a question. I saw Lucia Vega. Did you raise your hand, Ms. Vega?
Oh, sorry. Not on purpose.
Okay.
But I could ask a question. I see there's a structure to the program, and I was wondering how would that be adapted to the Montessori method that follows the child, and like there's no like timing. I don't know if in this school there is, but like math, maybe they have math for 120 minutes a day for a couple of students, but maybe not for everyone. Would getting into dual language mean that they would have a structure different than Montessori?
No, that's a great question. I really appreciate you asking that. So we do work directly with Montessori schools so that they can adapt the dual language program to the specifics around the Montessori structure, right? We mentioned the minutes of the structure of two-way dual language because that represents a typical schedule for your typical elementary school. The most important thing to keep in mind here in Montessori is that the languages are assigned to the content area. So whether a student is in math instruction for 60 minutes that day or 90 minutes or 120 minutes, the primary language instruction for that student in math is going to be English. And the same for reading. So if they're a pre-K, kindergarten, or first grade student, whether they're in reading instruction for an hour that day or 2 hours, the primary language of instruction for reading for that student is going to be Spanish.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe Anne Marie had a question.
Oh, mine was basically the same thing as Ms. Vasquez's, which was, yeah, how does it work with the time blocks, given that instructional time and like teachers speaking to them time is not really the majority of the time. It really is working in stations, working with their peers. And so is there like a peering within the classroom, or how does that basically work so that there is that exchange and that like for like language students aren't just sticking with each other?
That's a great question as well. So the dual language program does call for what we call bilingual pairs, where we will pair students based on their linguistic strengths, right? And I could have Belinda, if you want to explain the bilingual pairs just a little bit better, so we get a clear understanding of that.
Hi, good afternoon. For the bilingual pairs, what the teachers do is they'll look and see where that one child is at, like where they're at with their English and where the other child's at with their Spanish. They'll look at everybody, right, as a whole in the class by content area to see what the strengths are and what the weaknesses may be, and they'll pair them up accordingly. So they're not going to put a high Spanish speaker with a high English speaker. They might pair a high Spanish speaker with like a medium range English speaker so that they're learning from each other and gaining from each other's language. So, and they're not going to put a high Spanish speaker with a low Spanish speaker because then there's a frustration level there. But they may do someone that has like a lower, on the lower end, lower range of Spanish with someone that has maybe like a medium range of Spanish. So they pair the students so that they can work together to learn from each other's strength. And then they do that, they try to switch them out every 6 weeks. And I don't know if we're at 9 weeks right now. So, but the teachers will rotate the partners so that they work with different children.
Right. And I do want to reiterate that we do have what we call a working professional learning community that is dedicated just to Montessori dual language teachers, so that we've got representatives there to help them as thought partners as they think through how to apply the precepts and concepts of dual language to the Montessori specific environment. We have a question from Jenny Avila.
Hi, I actually was wondering, I have a son in pre-K 3 who's in a bilingual class. How will that differ from the dual language?
So dual language is our bilingual program. There is no difference.
Okay, just the name. Got it. Thank you.
I was going to say the biggest difference is really in the population of the classroom. So we have at a lot of our campuses, we have a one-way bilingual program. So everyone there is an English learner. And the benefit of a two-way dual language program, like we're talking about today, is that half of your class is a native Spanish speaker and half of your class is not a native Spanish speaker. So that we can do things like Belinda was saying and partner them so that they can build on each other's languages.
I have a question. My name is Gemma Lomas. I don't have my emoji with the hands up.
You're okay.
But my question in regards to all this is, when it comes to the testing pieces, how are they going to be tested? Knowing that, like, for example, my daughter is more English speaking versus Spanish. She understands Spanish. She'll speak it when she feels like it, or she'll understand Spanish and respond in English. So when it comes to this testing piece in Montessori, how is she going to be tested?
That's a great question. And it's one we get all the time, Ms. Lomas. So some tests are part of like the weekly test that your student might take as part of the content that they're studying. For example, reading or science or social studies or math. Those weekly assessments are generally in the language of instruction, right? So in reading language arts, they use in the general curriculum, I don't know what Montessori uses specifically, but there is a basically a running record in reading skills that is administered to students on a regular basis. The general guidance is that that would be given to the students in their language of instruction. So for pre-K, kinder, first grade students, or specifically, I would guess kinder and first grade students, those students would get that assessment in Spanish because that's the language of instruction. There's also an assessment that is a little bit more of a summative assessment called the MAP assessment. And that assessment is given at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. That assessment, the language proficiency committee at the school in collaboration with the teacher who plays a huge role in making those instructional decisions will decide based on the strengths of the child which language for that MAP assessment is the most appropriate, right? Now, the good news is that the MAP assessment can be given in both languages is if that's what the teacher, the school, and the parents feel is best for the child, to really identify where the two strengths of the child are and where there might be some academic gaps that need to be filled. So that's available to be provided in both languages. As the student gets older and gets into third grade and higher, where they're taking the state assessments, again, the Language Proficiency and Acquisition Committee, what we call the Lpac, would make decisions about which language is the most appropriate for the student to take a state assessment in. And generally speaking, when we say most appropriate, what we mean is most likely for the student to demonstrate their highest level of proficiency, right? So your student would be able to take the reading star in third grade, either in Spanish or in English, depending on which language the teacher and that Lpac committee feel would be most beneficial to your student.
So these weekly assessments, tests that you're referring to, you know, right now my daughter's in first. She's currently in the dual language because I wanted her to stay in it.
Mhm.
You know, if it's being tested in Spanish and that's not her strong language, how is the scores really going to, you know, determine that she's weak, you know, being weak on a subject when in reality she's not because of the language barrier?
That's a really great question. And that's where we work with the teachers to really start to dive in. And if they have any questions about where is the gap for a student, whether it's language or content, a teacher certainly in the course of their instruction has the wherewithal and the autonomy to administer an assessment in a different language to a student if they want to try to identify, is this a content knowledge gap or is this a language gap for a student? And you can definitely directly work with the teacher around that. And certainly there's flexibility built into the instructional program to allow for that as well.
If I could just add that Mr. Heffernan mentioned the Lpac Committee, and that committee really works closely with the teachers to determine the language of assessment for any assessment that is going to be administered in the classroom. And so they have the capability to say, what language is the student strongest in? Because to your point, the point of the assessment is to determine growth and where we can support. So the teacher is going to work with the Lpac to administer the assessment in the language that is going to help the student be the most successful across the board for any assessment given.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like Ms. Vega has another question.
Yes, thank you. I was listening to what, I'm sorry, I don't know the name, was explaining about pairing the students according to their level. And I was wondering if that would be like a constant, or if they got the opportunity to choose who to work, even if they have a high achievement in Spanish and in English. Do we still keep the freedom, or do they still keep the freedom to choose who they want to work with?
Well, yes. Let me see if I can answer this question, and Belinda, you can pipe in. So bilingual pairs is a very specific approach to pairing students up. It's not the only way that students are partnered in the classroom, right? So there are specific activities that we employ bilingual pairs for. But again, they're not the only opportunities that students get to pair with other students. They don't just work with their bilingual pair. They can work with any other student at any given moment throughout the day for any number of activities that the teacher might design. So yes, if the teacher is employing student choice and choosing partners to work on activities throughout the day, then your student would be able to exercise that choice in choosing students. When it comes to bilingual pairs, the teacher might play a larger role in helping make those decisions so that she can guide the pairing according to what she sees in language strength among the students. Belinda, do you have anything to add to that?
I think that's a really good explanation. And, our bilingual pairs pair with other bilingual pairs to make our cooperative groups in our program. And then a lot of times they're paired by content area. So they might be paired with one student with reading language arts, another with math, another with science or social studies. And then they go to different teachers. So they may just be paired differently throughout the day. And again, they rotate typically every 6 to 9 weeks. But that was a really good explanation, Richie. You're right on.
All right, perfect. Looks like we have Hillary Cooper has raised her hand.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you for holding this meeting. I have a pre-K3 and pre-K4 child that are hesitant learners so far. And I'm just wondering, I imagine that parents with a child in the dual language program may need to have some more frequent touch points with the teachers because of this added learning dimension. What's the process for keeping parents abreast of their progress? Do we continue to meet on the same parent-teacher conference schedule, or are there like interim meetings that we have with the teachers to track progress? Does that process change at all for being part of this group?
So we don't have a systematized program for every school because the context in each school is slightly different, right? And we allow schools to design and implement whatever parent outreach and parent connection system that they feel meets the needs of their parents. Now, having said that, we are certainly always willing and able to partner with a school to develop and design that system based on the needs that are seen at that school. Ms. Preston, do you have anything else that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, so absolutely. And especially being in our unique learning environment where the Montessori is for that student to thrive more in that individual way, but to make sure that our parents are a part of that communication as to how they're developing. So it might not be the same timeline as what the district has as a one size fit all. Here, because of the regulatory of observations that the children have with the teacher being able to know what that growth looks like, you might get more than just the progress report timeline or report card, but it's just on the needs of what that child needs as well as that parent. So that sometimes might be individualized versus the whole classroom versus the whole campus versus the whole district.
Did that answer the question?
It did, and I certainly appreciate Ms. Preston's comments. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so in line, we have Jennifer Murillo, and then we have Carolina Clammer. So Jennifer Murillo, you asked a question, could a third grader to little no previous exposure to Spanish be able to opt in? We would highly recommend against that for a couple of reasons. The complexity of the text and the conversations and the content at third grade is pretty significant. There aren't a lot of opportunities to scaffold a child into that complex, rigorous text at third grade. And we have found with students that have entered the program at that late level, a pretty high recidivism rate in that, or attrition rate in that. Parents are excited, they say they're gonna do it, the kid's excited, and then within months, the students have decided that it's too much for them. So the success rate for students going into the program at third grade is so low that we would recommend against it. And then we had Carolina Clammer, I believe.
My question was very, very similar because my daughter was in a Spanish immersion program up through pre-K 3. But she'll be in first grade if I were to move her to dual language. And I wondered if that's too late for that.
We actually, our guidance does allow for first graders to enter the program in first grade up through first grade. So especially if your child had experience in a bilingual or dual language program earlier, then I would imagine that dual language at Downtown Montessori could be a really good fit for your child. And it looks like, am I the only one that's frozen? Did you get the answer there?
No, you came through clear.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
You did. Okay, great. We have Anne Marie.
Hi, sorry, second question. What can parents do? I mean, like what kinds of supports ideally could we be providing at home? My Spanish is like very limited. Like what kinds of things should we be primarily emphasizing our own like native language, or should we be trying to do some Spanish with them?
So I would say this. First of all, the fundamental principle around learning a second language is always dependent on how advanced developed you are in your primary language. So for sure, continuing to advance English in your home by whatever you do, talking to your kids, the types of nuanced conversations you have with them, how you expose them to new vocabulary, all the reading you do with them in English, those are all really important things to continue so they can develop real strength and facility in their primary language that they then would transition to Spanish, right? The other thing that is really beneficial and helpful for students is if parents are learning Spanish at the same time that their kids are. So we would highly recommend getting that Duolingo app, getting yourself enrolled in a class, and get going on that Spanish so that you can be seen as someone that values learning Spanish as well. And your child and you can go on this journey together. They may be exposed to slightly more advanced Spanish, throughout the year because it's very content specific, but that still provides you an opportunity to help them. And then also just inspire them to aspire, right? Like going through that struggle yourself, that they can identify that with, is going to be really important. If they see it as a journey that the whole family is going on, that could be really helpful to keep them motivated when it gets difficult, because the truth is, it is difficult to learn a second language, which is why not everybody speaks two languages, right? Because it's hard sometimes. And so giving your child a foundation of grit and perseverance and identity with you that, hey, this is hard, but it's worth it. And it's going to be so awesome when we're done. I think that's really important as well. Belinda or Ileana, do you have anything you would like to add to that around how parents can support their students on this journey?
I was actually going to say, when I was a dual language teacher, I taught one way, so majority Spanish, learning English. And I got that question all the time because a lot of our parents didn't speak English. And I always told them to also expose them to like environmental language. So maybe I don't always listen to the radio in the native language, or maybe we watch this movie with dubbed, right? It's dubbed in the other language so that we could all kind of interact with the language together. So kind of what Richie was saying about just doing it as a family and exposing them to those other languages as often as possible. Like maybe we go out to eat somewhere and I let them read the menu, right? Because it happens to be in that opposite language, or I let them order in that opposite language. So anytime I could expose them to things like grocery stores, movies, music, anything environmental is awesome, because then they're using it in real life.
And the other thing we would add to that is it's great to gently prod and encourage your kiddos, but also give them the opportunity to opt out. And if they don't want to, then don't make them, because then that's going to create like an oppositional relationship with the language, right? Because I don't know if you've ever traveled to a country where you don't speak a language, but something as simple as trying to ask where the bathroom is, or getting on a bus and trying to figure out how to pay, honestly, it can be terrifying. It's really amazing to me when I get into that experience, how anxious and fear-inducing that experience can be. And that's just a part of just natural human reaction to a second language. So you want to keep your eye out for that and make sure that you're always encouraging and always positing the second language in a positive light. All right, we have a question from Sitlali. Sitlali? Sitlali, you have your hand up, but I see that you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm using my wife's ID. So her name is Sitlali AJ Narvaez.
Nice to meet you, AJ.
Thank you. My question is that we currently have a first grader this year that's in the dual language program. Now, we at home speak primarily Spanish. And so I tend to see that she's getting, and she was there last year as well. So I tend to see that she gets, like to your point when you were going through the slides, basically out of the whole 24-hour day, she's only getting 90 minutes a day worth of English, because we're at home watching content in Spanish, radio in Spanish. My wife talks to her in Spanish. So does that kind of play backwards in her long-term education, where she's really just learning a little bit of English, and to the point where we'll get to, say, in an elevator and people will ask her something in English and she'll be like kind of confused, like she doesn't understand fully 100% what they're asking her or trying to communicate with her.
So I will say this, our data across the country and our own internal data in Dallas ISD is very, very clear and consistent over the last 30 years, looking at tens of millions of students, just like your child. And that is this: for students where Spanish is the language spoken most at home, participating in a dual language program designed just like ours allows those students to outperform general education students that only speak English, hands down, every way you slice. And our own internal data shows that as well. Our students that have Spanish dominant, whose primary language is Spanish, going through our program exactly as it's designed allows them to exceed the academic achievement of their general education peers that are only learning in English all the way through elementary school and into middle school as well. So your child is going to get a phenomenal bilingual and biliterate education that's going to allow them to fully function academically in both languages.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Is that
Okay.
also true for the English-speaking students?
Yeah,
and
the
their
English-speaking,
performance academically?
yeah, though the academic performance of English-speaking students that perform in dual language, they outperform all students in Dallas ISD.
Wow. Well, we have definitely enjoyed the knowledge that has definitely been shared by the Department of our dual language. I don't know if my family and my parents, really share the same mindset as me, but I have been educated today, as long as I have been in education, to really hear some more clarity as to the avenues that our children can be exposed to with just the participation and now having a understanding as the adult on how we can support. I do think I saw one more question just pop up in the chat. We'll take that and then I'll kind of turn it back over and see if we have any last questions before we wind down.
Right. So Blanca Guardado, you're asking about your child with a speech delay and asking if participating in dual language would help him or better his language in both English and Spanish, or would it hold him back? I need to be clear, I'm not a special education expert, but I know a lot of the research recommends that students that have special needs like a speech delay, language issues, those students also tend to perform better than general education students by participating in a dual language program. I don't know if anybody else on my team has any other insight into that question. Maybe our director Clymer.
Yes, hello. Yeah, so I was just going to say that the committee that we mentioned earlier, the Language Proficiency Assessment Committee and the ARD Committee, they work really closely together to determine the best student placement for students. The ARD, of course, bringing the information about the students' very specific needs, and then the Language Proficiency Committee bringing the information about the students, their language proficiency results and language development. So they come together and make the best decision about where they feel like that student is going to be the most successful. So I would encourage you, to get with Ms. Preston and work with the Lpac and the ARD to look at your child and determine the best placement for him or her.
And I was going to say, as a follow-up to Amanda, I was going to say, always with Lpac and ARD, our goal is to make sure they benefit from both. So we want to be sure they don't lose the benefit of either program. So we're really excited and hopefully it works out and everything is great and they get to participate.
And then it looks like we have one final question from Jocelyn Roberts about opting into the program. And so Ms. Preston, your Lpac chair is Mr. Falk, correct? Or Folk?
Yes, Mr. Folk.
So you would be able to connect Jocelyn Roberts with Mr. Folk to opt into the program, correct?
Absolutely. And Ms. Roberts, that's one of the winning questions of today's training. So
right.
thank you for asking that. But yes, absolutely, family. If you are now more clear and have more of an understanding, and hopefully that was the whole point of today's presentation, to help you understand where you were in the decision making for the dual language program, and you are ready now to move into that next phase of what do I do to get into it, you will just reach out to me with an email telling me your interest so that I can connect you with Mr. Folk, our Lpac chair and administrator, who will walk you through the process of what forms need to be done, as well as explaining the timeline of the forms and the process that it will endure. Okay.
All right. It seems like those are all the questions, Principal Preston.
Okay.
I'm really grateful for you giving us this opportunity to meet your parents. I have a son myself enrolled over there at Downtown Montessori, and he's in the dual language program. Super excited about it. I'll be very clear. He's not always super excited about the Spanish, but we keep him motivated at home, right? And that's the key. And so as a parent, that's also the advice I have. Don't give up. Don't let your kid give up. Acknowledge with them that it could be hard, but show them the light at the end of the tunnel. Always keep it fun and always make it hopeful so that you can rebuild their grit and perseverance.
I don't know what else to say after that besides thank you so much for taking the space and the time to give us more information about our students' needs, and most of all, us as parents and the top leaders of what our children are doing, how we can support them, right? So thank you all so much. Family, we will see you all at 3 o'clock for pickup on time. And we just wish everyone a well evening and a well week.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Thank you so much.
So welcome.